I am excited to round out the week with fraction learning again today. Our I can compare fractions with unlike denominators. We're going to just focus in on one strategy today, and that is to find a common denominator. So pause your video if you need to go get anything to do your work with today. So the word problem we're going to look at first is that Juan read for 5/6 of an hour and Emma read for 1/3 of an hour. And we want to figure out who read longer. So on our boards, we're going to write 5/6, and we're going to put a little circle there. That's where we put our little comparison, and 1/3. So what we want to do is we want to compare those two and figure out which one is larger. So the first thing I want to do is I always like to see, if I have a larger one, I want to see, does this one have a multiple of this one? So I like to always figure out what is the least common multiple. And what is the least common multiple? That's the smallest number, not 0, that is a multiple of the two numbers that I'm comparing. All right, so that's why I always check that one first. So I start with my 3 and I go 3, 6, and sure enough it is 3, 6. So how can I get my 3 to a 6? And I know I can get that 3 to a 6 by multiplying it times 2. We also know that we have to, whenever we multiply here, whatever we do to the bottom or the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. So we change that to 6, and then 1 times 2 is 2. So now we're actually, instead of looking at 1/3, we're looking at 2/6. So is 5/6 greater than or less than 2/6? Well, we know if we have 5/6 of something, 5 out of 6 pieces, or 2 out of 6 pieces, we know that 5 out of 6 pieces is more than or greater than 2 out of 6 pieces. So 5/6 is greater than 1/3. So let's try another one that we'll compare. So we'll have 1/4 and 2/3. So I know the first thing I check to see if 3 would be a multiple of 4, and I know that that's not the case. So then I think about my multiples of 4 and my multiples of 3. So if I were to list them out, I would have 4, 8, 12, 16. You don't really know where to stop. You start to get an idea because you'll kind of think of what your multiples are when you think of your multiples of 3, because I think I know which one it would be. 3, 6, 9. Oh, there's that 12. Okay, so the smallest one I see on both lists there's 12. So here, I know that it's 1, 2, 3. I did 4 times 3. And I know whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 1 times 3 is 3. So now I'm going to have 3/12 as my equivalent fraction. And then I come over here and it went into 4 times to give me that 12th denominator for equivalent fraction, which we did last video. And whatever I do to the bottom, I do the top. 2 times 4 is 8. So 8/12. So I'm comparing 3/12 to 8/12, and I know that 3/12 is less than 8/12. All right, so 1/4 is less than 2/3. So let's look at 3/4 and compare it to 6/8. So again, I'm going to start here and look, is 4 going to have 8 as a multiple? So I go 4, 8, and sure enough, there it is. What did I do? I took it times 2 to get me to 8. And whatever I do to the bottom or to the denominator, I'm going to do to the numerator times 2, and 2 times 3 is 6. And what do you notice here? So I don't do anything to this. It stays the same. And what do you notice? They are equal. So they are equivalent. 6/8 is 6/8. So 3/4 and 6/8 are equivalent fractions. Let's try one last problem. So finding the least common multiple here, if I list out my 8s, I have 8, 16, 24. My brain starts stinging because I think, here we go, 6, 12, 18, 24. There we go. That is the least common multiple on both lists. So I went over 3 times 3. 8 times 3 gives me 24. And whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. 7 times 3 is 21. So then I come over here and I went over 4 times. Whatever I do to the denominator, I'm going to do to the numerator, and I get 20. That's a close call. And I would say that 21/24 is greater than 20/24. I am going to end by just showing you a real quick trick that you can use, and that is just cross multiplying to find a common denominator. So what you can do is you can just multiply the opposite denominator to get a common denominator when comparing. So I can take this side over here times 7, and this side over here times 6. So 7 times 6 is 42. So we know 6 times 7 is 42. You'll just get the opposite, and that would give you a common denominator. So now I take whatever I do to the denominator, I'm going to do to the numerator, times 7. 7 times 4 is 28. And over here, I'm going to take the numerator times 6. 3 times 6 is 18. So I know that 28 is greater than 18. So 4/6 is greater than 3/7. So that's kind of a shortcut way of figuring out or comparing fractions as well. All right, so I will put some practice problems for you to do in the classwork section for comparing fractions with unlike denominators.